Okay, my name's Pat Doherty, and my dad, Joe Doherty, was a navigator on a B-17, the 351st Bomb Group in World War II. And he wouldn't say much. All his life, he wouldn't say much until we got cancer in '93, and so then he talked a little bit more from February of '93 until April of '93 when he died, so that's when I found out most of this. He was a navigator on a B-17 508th Bomb Group, and on March 22nd, 44. It was only their second or third mission. I've heard fourth. I can't find any records where it was any more than their second. The pilot was Wyman C. Slosson from Bemidji, Wisconsin. Bemidji, Minnesota. And he is the hero for the crew. He flew the plane until the crew got out. The 351st Bomb Group's mission that day was Berlin, marshalling yards near Berlin, and they dispersed because the cloud cover to bomb targets of opportunity, and at some point when they went back together, they attached themselves to the 457th Bomb Group, who they knew they were from Glatton. 351st flew out of Polbrook, England, and Glatton was only a few miles away. It was a sister unit. It was also in their 351st. It was they were the Flying U, I think, in 351st, or sorry, Triangle U. The 351st was their Triangle J was on their tail, triangle with a J in it. So it turns out some of the planes in the 457th were still dropping bombs. So the picture that I sent you is a picture taken from on that day from the 457th Bomb Group, and I'm assuming they didn't drop their bombs on any other plane. Slosson's plane is the only one that didn't return that day from the 351st Bomb Group. And what happened was the 457th, they ran into the bombing pattern of the 457th, and about 4 bombs hit the plane. One of them went off the tail section, tore the tail stabilizer off, as you can see in the photo, killed the tail gunner immediately. His name was Walter Behr, B-E-H-R, I think. And it set the plane on fire in the middle, and a bomb went through the nose in front of the windshield where the pilot and the co-pilot said it was in front of them, and went down through the nose. And when it went through the nose, it hit my dad, the navigator, Joe Doherty. It hit him, a glancing blow knocked him out, cut his neck a little bit, and it also blocked the escape hatch. So you couldn't go out the nose hatch where the co-pilot, the pilot, the bombardier, navigator, top turret gunner, their quickest escape would be out that nose hatch, but it was blocked. So the bombardier told the pilot, and the pilot stayed in his seat, and he opened the bomb bay doors so everybody could get out. The bombardier's name was Higgins, Jim Patrick Higgins, and they had dropped their bomb load, but there was one bomb hung up they didn't know about. So when they opened the bomb bay doors and saw that bomb was still there, Higgins lay down to release it manually. And he did, but when he did, his chute fell open. And so his drag chute, the first chute, started out, and the top turret gunner saved his life by hanging on to him and grabbing him and unhooking his chute. So now Higgins doesn't have a chute. And the pilot, Slosson, says the co-pilot Smithline, who had already bailed out, keeps a spare chute. So Higgins went and got Smithline's spare chute, and that's how he came down. And he and the top turret gunner picked up my dad and dragged him up over the platform where the pilot and the co-pilot sit, and got him to the bomb bay doors. My dad's only recollection of anything in the plane, he doesn't remember it being hit, he doesn't remember anything, but he does remember standing in front of the bomb bay doors looking down, and they're no longer over the city. And he said there's fire all around him, and he's looking around, he says, I'm half unconscious, I can see fields and forests below me, and the flames inside, and then all of a sudden I have this sensation of falling. And what they'd done is they'd pushed him out the bomb bay doors and pulled his cord. Yeah. But nobody cinched him up. He didn't cinch up tight. So when the chute opened, it had the same effect of like a Heimlich kind of thing, and he blacked out again. And so then the next he woke up, he's laying in the field. and laying in a field with his chute billowing behind him, and he pulled his chute in, and then soldiers came and got him, which was better than civilians. Soldiers came and captured him, and partway through their being in different jails and things, he heard Higgins' voice. So he knew the navigator. He recognized the bombardiers. He recognized his voice, and they wound up going through 14 months of POW camp together. Smith Line was listed as being in a POW camp, but there's no record of him surviving the war. And we don't know what happened. He was Jewish. We were worried that that's what happened. Slosson flew the plane till everybody got out and then died. He was killed in action, and Bear's remains were found, but Slosson's were not. Slosson's in a grave in the Netherlands for missing. And there were people who speculated, not how would I know, that he may have almost got out and got separated from the plane. And that's why he wasn't physically in the plane, so they could identify him. He may have got out, but he still did not survive. And he's a hero. He flew the plane for a long time. I mean, it took a long time to drag my dad out of the nose hatch and up over the platform, and then dealing with the Higgins chute opening up and getting another one. The whole time the plane is out of control. Witnesses from the 457th who saw it say it banked to the right and just disappeared out of sight and things like that. The story on Higgins is the top turret gunner, whose last name I forget, was named Jim. Higgins was Jim Higgins. But in the B-17, you could not have two crew members with the same first name, because you communicated using first names, and you had the throat mics because you're on oxygen masks. And the throat mics distort your voice, and you can't tell anybody's voice by the sound of it with the throat mics. So the rule was everybody had to have a different first name, and so Higgins used his middle name. So in the 351st Bomb Group, Jim Higgins was Pat Higgins, and I'm named for him. But when I told the Higgins family that, because I reconnected after both my dad and Higgins had passed, they were confused by that. But fortunately, my mother and my Aunt Jean were both still living, and they cleared it up in a heartbeat. There's my mother, who never said anything either until after my dad died. She says when they first came back, he wouldn't answer the phone, didn't want to be around crowds, just the whole theory. And she says, in his nightmares, he'd say, "Get Slosson, get Slosson."
Amazing. I appreciate you sharing that, Pat.
So.